This is BBC One with Kilroy.
So you've only had a couple of drinks. OK to drive then now, are you? Good morning, everyone. Hello. Hello and good morning. We were doing so well, weren't we? The number of deaths by drink driving had decreased from 1,600 fatalities in 1976 to 460 in 1999. So what happened last year? When despite the government spending 1.8 million on a year-round drink driving campaign, the number of deaths rose to 520. So, are we doing enough? Jimmy, what are you back here for? I thought I'd seen the last of you 5 years ago when you told me you'd been drinking and driving, but that was the end of it. No more drinking and driving. Are you still drinking and driving, Jimmy?
Yes.
Why?
It's just something I can't get out of my system.
What do you mean you can't get it out of your system?
Well, when I'm out, if I'm out with my friends and that, in the public house, and there's a car going, I'll be the first one to put my hand up to say, I'll drive you, Sam.
But why? I can understand you saying you can't get the drink out of your system and that you need to drink for one reason, although I actually find that sometimes inexplicable that people can't control it, but I can see that they can't. Why do you have to go and drive?
Because I'm mad about cars.
Ah, so it's a deliberate thing, not a compulsion, not something you don't know about, you actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
You get a buzz.
It gives me a buzz at times, yes.
Driving the cars gives you a buzz?
Yes, it gives me a buzz when I'm drunk.
When you're drunk?
Yep.
Explain that to me.
Well, I wouldn't go in a car and drive when I'm sober.
You wouldn't?
No.
Oh, right. That's a new one. Why is that?
Because I don't have a licence to begin with.
Oh, dear.
I've never had a licence in my life.
You've never had a licence?
Never.
You've never learnt to drive?
I can drive.
Yeah, but you've never been taught. You've never passed a driving test?
No.
And you've never had a proper licence?
Never.
And you only enjoy driving if you're drunk or had a drink?
Had a drink.
How many drinks?
Well, it all depends. If I'm out an all-day session, an all-night session, it can vary between 8 to 10 pints of lager and shorts after that.
And what is your driving like then, Jimmy?
Well, I think I'm the best driver in the world.
You think you are?
I think I am.
Have you had any accidents?
Yes, I've had accidents, but I've never injured anybody.
What accidents have you had, Jimmy?
I've crashed into a bus shelter.
Yeah?
And I've crashed into a lamp post.
And what else?
Yeah.
There's a lot in there, Jimmy. You can't remember them all, can you?
No.
No. It's quite a few.
But I'm not proud of it.
No, but it's a fact. You are proud of drinking and driving. The best driver, you've just told me.
Yeah.
You just told the whole world. So that's something you're very proud of. Best driver in the world you are when you're drunk.
Yeah, but if anybody going out, not just drink driving, if you go out and you can be the greatest fighter in the world. You could be Mike Tyson with a drink on you.
I'd like to know why you're still walking around free.
Sorry?
I'd like to know why you're walking around a free man, why you're not locked up for your
Blame the courts,
antisocial
dear.
behaviour.
The courts are to blame, the justice
No,
system is
you're
to
to
blame.
blame.
No, it's not just me.
Because
I've been
you-
convicted 4 times for drunk driving, and not once have I received a jail sentence or anything close to a jail sentence.
You can't
blame
be
the court system.
You can't be a very good driver then, can you? If they could tell you're drunk when you're driving to being caught 4 times at least.
Yes, 4 times that the police have caught me.
Well, you must have been wiggling about a bit, Jimmy.
Yes,
mustn't you?
exactly.
Yeah.
Erratic driving.
Or erratic driving.
Well, that's what they put. That's how they stopped me.
Or speeding. It was erratic driving. So
Never
you
looked
weren't
at the
driving
speedometer.
very well, were you? Tell him what drunk drivers do to people.
Drunk drivers ruin lives. They ruin the lives. They kill people. If they kill somebody young, you have taken away the potential. Goodness knows what that person might have done in their life. And if they're old, you've still no right to do that. You not only destroy the life of the person you kill, You destroy the life of the
You had
family.
anybody in your family?
Yes.
Tell him.
A drunk driver killed my son in a private driveway.
How
And the
old?
driveway wasn't even the drunk's driveway.
How old was your son?
He was 4.5.
What did the driver do?
The driver, for reasons best known to himself, reversed into this private driveway where my son was playing. He hit him. He rolled forward. He was so drunk he didn't realise he'd hit him, and he went back over him, and he still didn't realise he'd done anything.
How would you
That's
feel,
what
Jimmy?
drink drivers do.
How would you feel, Jimmy, if you did that to someone? My daughter was killed too, in the same circumstances.
Do you mean if somebody done it to my son?
No, if you did it to someone else.
If you
killed someone, would that stop you driving? Drink
See,
driving?
that's a thing I never think about. I don't intentionally go out to harm anybody.
Are you stupid, Jimmy?
Yeah, I would say I'm stupid, yeah, but
And
I'm
come on,
I'm
you're not
going
stupid,
out
are
to
you? You're not stupid.
intentionally knock
You're not
somebody down and kill them.
You're not stupid. You know what drinking and driving does. You've got the evidence before you in your convictions for erratic driving, meaning you are all over the place, Jimmy, right? So
Right.
you're not in a straight line.
I'll agree
You are
with you.
not safe. You know that people get killed. So then why do you do it? Because you're not stupid. You must know the risks of you killing somebody are horrendous.
But it never happens to me.
Tell him this.
There's every chance of moving around it.
So you're going out deliberately to actually kill someone?
No, not at all. No, I'm not going to kill
Every
anybody.
time you drive your car, you're taking your chance, you're going to kill
I'm
someone.
taking a chance of maybe going home drunk, but driving a car. I'm not,
why don't you
I'm
get a
not going
taxi?
taking a
Hang on,
car
Helen.
to go and knock somebody down and kill them.
Ruth?
Yeah, well, I too lost my son, a drink driver, 2 weeks before Christmas time, 8 years ago.
How old was he?
He was 8 years old, and it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon when school children are about. He was, I think, 1.5 times, twice over the legal limit, speeding, doing 42 miles an hour on a 30-mile road. And when the police took away his vehicle to examine it, it was caked with mud inside the windscreen, so he couldn't even see. And I'm afraid a driving licence is a privilege. It's not a right. And as such, it must be respected.
Dennis asked you, what if it had been you? And she was talking about her son being killed by a drunk driver in her driveway. Look at Dennis, because Dennis lost a relative to somebody like you. What would you feel if you've got to look at Dennis now in the eye and explain how you killed? Tell him what happened, and then he can explain how he would justify himself to you.
4 girls walking home at night on the pavement. Drunken driver came round the corner,
Your daughter.
crashed into the wall, reversed, drove up the pavement, hit 3 of them. The 4th one managed to escape by climbing the wall. One of them was killed instantly. My daughter died in hospital later. And the 3rd was in hospital for 5 days before she died with brain damage. And that's devastated.
Now, that could be you. Erratic driving. Look at him and say, I never thought it would be me. Tell him how important it is for you to drink and drive, that you might put his daughter and other kids at risk. Because that's what it comes down to, Jimmy. Your drinking and driving is so important to you, you will put his daughter at risk.
Obviously, I feel very sorry.
You felt
his
very
loss, but
let me show a clip of you,
you
Jim,
see-
when you were on the show last time, 4 or 5 years ago. Well, let's have the clip.
I stopped drinking and driving in 1992 because I seen an accident concerning 2 small kids.
You told me then you'd stopped drinking and driving in 1992 because you'd seen an accident.
Yes, I did stop drinking and driving,
What happened?
but a relapse last year, if you want to call it a relapse,
Why?
because I was offered a loan of a car, and because I had a drink on me, I took it and ended up crashing into a lamp standard.
And you're still doing it now? And I'm-
I ran away after the accident, obviously, but I never got convicted.
You're still drinking now, aren't you? You smell of drink now.
I still drink,
You
yes.
smell of drink, Jim. You're drinking today, haven't you, already?
Yeah, coming down in the train, aye.
You've had quite a bit, yeah. And you do too, Martin, don't you?
I used to drink, yeah.
And drive.
And drive, yeah.
Why?
You just don't stop and think. What's most important to you is to get yourself home. I myself have done it. I took Helen's car after going on a major session. Went the wrong way over a roundabout. Head on into another vehicle. I was more than 3 times the legal limit. I didn't stop and think. And I'm sure Jimmy will back me up. You don't stop and think. Once you've got that drink in you, you can do whatever you want. You can take on the world, exactly as he said. You just don't stop and think of the consequences.
You don't look at people here like this now and see the consequences.
I do.
Nice, normal, ordinary people,
Yeah.
loving their kids, young kids, teenage kids, the whole futures whose lives have been destroyed.
Yes, I do
somebody
see these
like
people.
you said, I didn't think.
You don't when you're drunk. When you
Don't
drink.
you have any willpower to stop yourself drinking?
I couldn't remember the accident. I was so drunk. I couldn't remember leaving the pub. But I got in the car.
That's exactly what the person who killed our daughter said. That was what he said to the police. I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember for 3 days.
I didn't remember until I woke up in the police station what had happened. And they'd told me. I'd already
Why are
been
you allowed
breathalyzed.
to just walk away? How can the politicians sit back and allow people like you to walk out and just be free to kill anybody in this room, anybody in the country?
Well, it's a
How do
driving
they do
licence.
it? Why do they allow it to happen?
I don't know why they let it happen.
First, we'll come back to the law. We'll come back to the law. But how did both of them manage to get away with it for so long, Philip?
These are the type of hardened drinkers that we need to target. We need the public's help to do that. They need removing from the roads permanently.
You mean the public aren't giving you enough help?
No, we have a significant amount of help from the public, but we need to continue to work together.
You want the public
in a
what to
partnership.
tell you if somebody's got drunk and they're getting it into a car? You want the public to tell you that?
That's right, because these are potential killers. We're not just talking about getting somebody into trouble. We're on about saving lives, and what we need to do is we need to look at the moralistic values here. We need to be saying we're going to save lives. We're going to report these people to the police. We need the information about these so we can act.
So you see him getting into a car, he's drunk, he's going to drive. You're going to shop him?
No,
Why?
because I think it's a totally despicable idea.
What, him drinking and driving?
No, of shopping someone.
Why?
That we should have to do the police's job for them.
No, it's our job.
No, it's not.
It's our job. We're
You're
protecting
helping
our
police.
children and our fellow citizens.
No,
we
we're
all
not.
live in
That's
this.
what the police are there for.
No, the police are our servants who are paid to do our job,
Yes.
but we do our own job as well. You and I live in this community.
And also,
it's part of our world, our
Would you
society.
shop your son? Would you shop your wife?
I wouldn't let him get into a car if he was drinking and driving. No. I wouldn't let him
How
get
would
into
you
a car.
stop them?
I would
responsible.
physically stop him. Either I'd just
How?
confiscate his keys or I'd physically stop him. And if he was driving, yes, and if he was at the level that I thought, yes, I would. I'd tell him, I'd warn him, I was telling the police, and I'd tell the police. I would.
Sorry, I disagree with that.
Would you call the fire brigade if you saw a house on fire?
No, he wouldn't say that. It's the fire brigade's job.
No,
Right?
no.
Well,
it's the
you
same
call
thing.
the fire
No, it's
brigade
not.
so the fire brigade could do their job. What
Yeah.
we're saying is you call the police so the police can do their job.
No, it's showing disloyalty to your friends, to your
It's nothing
family.
to do with your friends. It may be one of your friends that get killed.
Might not necessarily be
Let's go
anybody
with
you
you. Let's
know.
hang on.
It may be one of your friends that's going to get killed by this driver. Would you want to call them then? Would you go to the funeral and say, I'm sorry,
I'd go
mate,
to the funeral,
I
yes.
could have stopped her.
Hang on.
End of the day,
Alan? Yeah.
what I can say on this, I mean, if you say you're not going to shop them because they're friends, something like that, you're going to let them go into a car drunk and kill somebody,
If they was that...
you might as well put a gun in their hand.
No, I'm not talking about
You know.
people who are sort of really, really drunk. Yes, I'd stop them myself. I'd take the keys away. But I'm talking about people who might be over the limit, might not be over the limit. I cannot make that decision. That is the police's job.
Well, call
I
them
could
and
not
let them
stop them.
find out.
I do not know if they're over the limit.
Call them and let them
How do
find
you know
out.
that somebody's over the limit anyway?
They shouldn't be drinking at all.
Rubbish.
They shouldn't be drinking
Rubbish,
at
it's legal.
all. No, it's not legal.
It's legal.
It is legal to have a drink
It's
and
not legal to
drive.
drink anything.
It's
not
not- it's-
saying you drink and go over the top and then drive, but you are allowed.
But you know somebody,
to
yeah, it is legal to drink and drive. It hadn't perhaps ought to be, but let's say it is. But it's not legal to drive over the limit. And you can tell if somebody is clearly over
Oh,
the
yes,
limit.
I'd stop them.
And then they won't stop.
No, if someone was
They won't
clearly
stop.
over the limit, I'd stop them. I'd take
They
the
won't
keys
stop.
away
They
from
won't
them.
stop. They've
At
got in
what
the car. You,
stage
I'm
would
doing
they
to you what you
have
did
to
to me.
do?
They've got in the car, they've done the key, and they've slammed the door, and they're off.
Well, I can't do much.
You can ring the police.
If they were really over the limit, I was not talking about someone who's really over the limit. I'm talking about someone you have no idea how much they've, if they're really drunk
Can
or
I just
not.
point out something? That somebody who was actually on the legal limit is five times more likely to have an accident than somebody who's had nothing at all. 5 times more likely, and that's at the legal limit.
That's why it should be
I
zero
don't believe you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be drinking at all.
No, I mean, I like to have a drink. I haven't had an accident because I've had a drink.
We've been lucky.
You drink and drive.
I do, yeah.
You drink and drive.
Time will tell.
Well done.
Sorry,
If you
drink
ever
and
lost a
drive.
child-
It's
I'm
legal.
under the limit, yes.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're breaking it, but you both drink and drive.
Yeah.
Is that the reasons why you wouldn't shop people? Because you drink and drive?
Because I would not know if they're over the limit. It's as
Should we
simple
shop
as that.
them?
You do, of course you do. I represent a charity called Crime Stoppers, and I think you must have searched very hard to get a couple of people with such peculiar and strange views. Because in the 12 years we've been running, millions of people have phoned Crime Stoppers to report people that are committing the most terrible of criminal offences. 30 people for a murder last year. I'm actually looking down at Jimmy, and I think he's as dangerous as any one of those murderers, and the thought that we should not report him astounds me. I think the camera should get a real close-up look at Jimmy, and we should have a national crime stoppers campaign to put him in prison where he belongs this Christmas, because he is a
How you
potential
saying I'm a
killer.
killer?
Because
Yeah,
you are a
potential
potential
killer.
killer.
You're a potential killer.
Well, no, I'm not. Not in
Of
the way
course
that
you are.
you
You
are.
don't know what
Not
your
in the way
temper's
that
like
you
or
are,
what
Jimmy.
you can do in a
You seem
situation.
almost proud of
You
the
don't
fact
know
that
what
you
you can
drive
do.
around the streets drunk. And there's these people here who've lost loved
So
ones.
everybody that gets
I think
drunk,
the
wait a minute,
camera should get a
everybody
good
that gets
shot
drunk.
of you, and we
I've
should
done
get
wrong
you
with
in
drink
prison
driving,
where you
I'm admitting
belong.
that. But everybody
I
gets drunk
personally would
is a
give
potential killer, are
£500
they?
for anybody that
Yes.
gave information about you.
Everybody.
What was the question he asked that you answered yes to? What was the question he asked that you answered yes to? He asked a question and you all said yes. What was it? I missed it. What was the question?
Everybody it gets drunk, they're a potential killer.
Particularly if you're behind the car. But so hang on. Let's just take a kind of quick look around you, because my friend from Crime Stoppers says these two are unusual. Let's see how... No. Let's see how unusual they are. Hands up if you would not shop somebody you knew to be drinking and driving over the limit. Hands up. Everybody of you. Every one of you would do it except these two. Right?
Well,
you wouldn't shop either? No. Oh, well, we better do you first then. Why not?
Now I would talk to them first, or even offer them.
That drunk, you can't talk to him. Look, you can't talk to him here now.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I don't know him as a mate, do I? But if it was my mate or friend and we all went out,
You've talked to them.
I would
You've
offer
talked
them
to
a lift home, give them
they've
taxi
said,
fare
go away.
before all of
They've
that.
done all that. We've done all that. They're in their car and they say, bye, I'm
no, but
fine.
I'd get to them before.
But you can't. They've done it. Come on, you've done it. They've done you. They're in the car and they're driving down the road. What do?
No, I wouldn't shop them. So.
Why?
No.
He might be... See the woman in the front? The black? Red collar, black and white scarf? Name's Ruth. What's your son's name?
Jamie.
Yeah.
Jamie. How old was Jamie?
8.
8. You got children?
Yes, okay.
How old are your children?
10 and 9.
8 and 10, 9. Not much difference, is it? It's your child. That person you have let go, and they're driving and you know they're dangerous. And you turn to me and say, no, I wouldn't shop them. And 10 minutes down the road, it's Jamie that's under the wheels. Look at her. Did you do the right thing?
Yeah, then you'd wonder, wouldn't you?
Oh, I would hope you would. Oh well, no, but why wait?
I would insist
why,
if it's a mate or something.
Why
not
wait?
To let them go like that. I wouldn't.
Why wait until it happens? Why not prevent it happening? Okay, we've got 3 people here. 3 people who are honest. You might not like them, but they're honest. How many of you are being honest? Because when it comes to the crunch, not many of you actually do it. Do they, Andy? No. Tell them, Andy. Because you're all being very self-righteous here about these 3, and I've got no time for them. But they are being honest. Tell them.
Well, yesterday, went out with a hidden camera. Went to a couple of bars in London, and I was pretending to be drunk. And one of the 3 different scenarios. One was I was basically I was asking people where a car park was. My mate had left my car there. I was showing my car keys. Basically, being very obvious that I was planning to drive home. But also,
let's give one example before you go on. So here you are pretending to be drunk, and we'll give you one clip of the thing he did for all day and he did this morning as well. Let's see what happened to Andy in one of the clubs in Covent Garden. I think this was.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Do you know where there's a car park round here?
No, I don't.
There's,
I don't have a car park.
Sorry?
I don't have a car.
All right. But is there one? Is St Martin's Lane or something round here? Is it over there?
I don't really think you should be driving though, mate.
Sorry?
I don't really think you should be driving though.
No, it's all right.
I don't think you should be driving, says it all, doesn't it? You were drunk, apparently. You were clearly behaving like drunk, because we can't see you very well there for the reasons that we were undercover, whatever it is, and so we hadn't got all the lights and what have you. So it's a very bad picture, and we apologise for that. But those 2 women clearly saw you as drunk, and they corroborated it by saying, I don't think you should be driving.
Yeah.
Did they report you?
I'm still here, so...
Did anybody report you?
No. I think that was only one example. Only 2 people made a real conscious statement of saying, I don't think you should drive, and interestingly, both of them are women.
And give me some other examples of how you were behaving in a clearly drunken, dangerous manner.
Another situation was that I was outside with car keys, sort of rocking backwards and forwards, trying to get in the wrong side of the car, trying to open it up, trying to get the car keys in, and there was people walking past, and I'd say, so I've had a bit to drink, could you stand there while I reverse the car out so I don't hit his car behind? And all of them went, yeah, no problem.
You're laughing, Pauline, but that could be you. It could be you, and I'm picking on you, and Les, and your Dennis, and Ruth, and Alan, because it could be you. Would you have reported? It takes a bit of trouble.
After what happened to us, if only because the friends that were with the person that killed our daughters actually asked the driver if he would leave the keys with them because he wasn't capable of driving when he was so drunk. And all he said to them was, I'm not going to drive, I'm going to get a taxi home. And then he went outside and he got into the car and he drove it home. And not satisfied with that, he drove it back out from the house, picked up a prostitute and took her home. Did what he did, and he drove so badly that she got a taxi home because she didn't trust herself to get in the car with him again. And he then went out and picked up another prostitute and was in the proceeds with her when the police intervened and asked the prostitute to leave. And if only those people had taken the keys off him in the first instance, our 3 daughters would be alive, and so many lives would be just so different.
So you would, had you been one of those 2 women in that pub, instead of saying, do you think
now,
you...
yes, knowing what I know.
But at the time, you probably wouldn't.
Probably wouldn't.
No.
Probably wouldn't.
And you probably wouldn't, Les, either, at the time, before anything happened to you. You'd been one of those 2 girls, and he comes stumbling up to you asking for the car park, and you can see he's drunk. But in fact, if I had carried on that clip, they treated him with disdain as a drunk. They obviously then turned to their, as if to get rid of him, and they turned back to their conversation. They were so uninterested in him and so focused on what they had to say to each other. Sorry that your looks didn't carry the day with you, Andy, but they did. But they were. And so he was of no account. He was just another drunk they were going to let get in the car.
But there is still something humorous about a drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, people still laugh. I think this is part of the reason why drink driving is not.
But he's getting in a car.
As
he's getting in a
seriously
car
as it is.
But we know it's serious, don't we now?
I don't know the other people in the film. They may have been drinking. They may have been to a party. Yeah. They may have been in a light mood. Once he became a bit of a pain, as drunks often do, they didn't
but
want to.
Nobody reported him anywhere else. Philip, are you surprised by this?
It's horrendous listening to it, isn't it? Really.
How many hours were you behaving like? How many people do you think would have had the opportunity to
I think definitely about 50, 60, 70 people.
And law-abiding citizens?
Yeah.
People who've been here today would have put their hands up to say, I'll report. Mm-hmm. Yeah, every one of them, probably. Yeah. So what do we do? If people won't report it, they're going to let him get away with it all the time, aren't they? Talking about Jimmy.
I can only hope that this is grabbing the public's attention. I mean, we need people to phone in. We need the information to be current, and we need it to be accurate so we can act straight away on it.
What about the government's campaign, Jimmy? Does that have any effect upon you? The government's campaign?
What campaign?
Really?
Yeah.
You don't even know... I don't suppose you have time to watch the television, do you?
No, I watch the television.
And you've not seen the government's campaign?
No.
All right, well, you're going to see it now. Hold him there. Let's show him. It's a bit gory, some of this, for this time in the morning. We've chosen the least gory.
No, it's the first time I've seen it. I mean, if I'm watching the television and adverts come on, I switch over to the other channel because I don't bother watching adverts.
OK, but you've seen that
I'm not just the only one in the country that does it, probably thousands do it.
That says at the end, think. Did it make you think, or is it a totally ineffective waste of our money? It's your money and mine we're spending there. Is it a waste of our money? Because it's you it's targeted at, and not probably just you, perhaps people who are less susceptible than you. So it might be unfair in saying that if it doesn't work on you, it's not effective. But you don't find it's not going to stop you to think. Helen?
Well, the campaign isn't the only thing that the government has to do. It has to ensure that the police have got the resources they want. It has to ensure that the police have got the support of the public and that they're seen not as just being, oh, that's the police's job. It is all our own responsibility. It's our own children's responsibility. And the campaign, I think, is useful in making people stop and think. No. But I think it has to be a reminder constantly, year in, year out.
No.
Emphasise Christmas, perhaps, because Christmas is important.
Don't you think that...
Hang on, sorry, Pauline.
As soon as when you see that on the TV, that yes, you think, oh, that's not very nice, it's an accident, and a lot of people don't like to see other people being hurt. But as soon as you walk out of the front door, you get on with your life and you forget it because that hasn't directly affected you. Well, when someone dear to you dies, because my son died because of a drink driver, and the person who killed him was allowed to drive for a further 13 months after my son died. 2 years previous to killing my son, he had already been banned for drink driving. Now, the British law, in my eyes, you're innocent until proven guilty. But when you kill somebody in a multiple road traffic accident and badly injure a lot of other people, and you're breathalyzed at the scene, you give a blood test and the results come back saying that you're nearly 3 times the legal limit within a few hours. That is guilty. Why wasn't his licence taken away? Why can't the licence be taken away directly?
I can't understand it. I thought... Well, I can't understand why. I mean, I don't know the details of the case, but I cannot. I cannot understand.
Not that case, not the case. But the principle of what she's saying.
Well, I thought it was automatic. If somebody was over the legal limit, it says in some police forces that they lose their license.
Let me be clear. Unless I've misunderstood. No, I agree with you, but I think you might have misunderstood. Unless I've misunderstood. She says before he got to court.
Yeah.
He was still allowed to drive even though the evidence there clearly shows. That's what she's saying. Am I right? You were saying that before, as soon as he got the legal limit, you could see he was over.
48 hours that he had, over 162
So she's saying before he's convicted in court, should he not at least at that point be stopped from driving until presumed guilty and still found innocent, if you like?
Yes, I mean, if that's the thing that needs tightening up, we need to tighten it up. I mean, in my experience, I have known people who have been breathalyzed, been over the limit, and responsible people, because it does happen to responsible people.
What, members of Parliament?
No, I'm not talking about members of Parliament. But they have not driven since they knew that had happened.
Right. But
and quite rightly too.
Perhaps there's something you should look at here. I don't know whether it is true, but if it is, there's a clear anomaly.
I know that the government are looking at the sentences and the appropriate ways in which the law are looking at it.
This is even before conviction.
I understand
it might
that.
be, you know, it's a new departure, but in the circumstances.
It's the support of the community.
Drink drive charge, and in the local magistrates within a couple of weeks, a licence goes in. Where there is a more serious charge pending, a death charge, then they don't deal with the lesser ones, the bald tyres and the speeding and the stuff like that. They don't deal with that because they deal with the serious charge, the death charge first, which, as many of us know, can take 12 months, 18 months before it gets into court.
No, I think this programme's making a good point.
That person is still entitled to drive. And while you're at it, could you also have a look at the blood samples that are taken during medical procedures, because the offender is unconscious at the time, and when he regains consciousness, refuses to let the authorities use that blood sample to show the alcohol that was in him at the time.
What fascinated me, and I was looking at the figures for
I take it there's no answer to that, then.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to. I'm just going to say the interesting.
That you would take it into account would help.
I'm interested that in 1979, 50% of people who the police went to breathalyse refused or were over the limit. There isn't that, and I'm saying this is a good thing, there isn't that mentality now that if you're stopped by the police, told to blow into this bag. We forget 20 years ago, people said, I'm not going to do that, that's against my rights.
Helen,
that's against my civil rights. They don't say that.
Helen, we don't expect you to come here with the full knowledge of everything. We expect you to be well briefed on the subject, of course, because that's what we pay and elect you for. And we assume you've done that. But there's always little twists, there's always anomalies. I must have done this kind of programme more than a dozen times in the 16 years I've been on the air, and I learned something new every single time. So we expect you to do that. But given that you have apparently, because I can't verify it's the first time I've heard it too, but this apparent anomaly that he can be clearly seen to be on the evidence to have been guilty and caused a death, but he's not yet been found guilty and he's innocent before the law quite properly. But it could take, as you know, the legal system a year, 18 months before he comes for trial, found guilty, sent to prison. In that period of time, he can drive. We ought to look at that, yeah?
We ought to look at that.
You'll look at the point that Mike Les has raised about the blood and whatever else is. And what I'm going to ask you to do is you will go away as an individual member of Parliament, look at those issues, and if you feel there's something in them that needs to be taken further, you will take them further. And we'll have you back here to tell us what has happened.
Every life that is lost through people drinking and driving is one life too many, and that's my view on this on this situation. It's speed. Because
but will you look at this issue?
I'll look at that issue, and I'll look at that issue, because your programme is very influential, and I think it does a good job on this sort of issue.
Absolutely.
It's very important.
And I know, because don't forget I've been where you are, and I know how easy it is for you to look into this. I know, for example, that if I'd been in your position, I'd be going back to the House of Commons tomorrow morning and I'd be saying, I want to look at this because I think there's something important here, there's something in this, and I'd be getting the House of Commons Library to tell me whether it's true or not, and I only have to ask the House of Commons Library. I don't have to do anything more than they'll tell me in half an hour whether she's right or not, and if she is, I would be then putting down a question, and it simply takes me 5 minutes to write and put that question into the table office, and I might be doing an early
demo. I wish it was all as simple as that.
It's not as simple as that to get the law changed. No, I'm not suggesting that will lead to changing the law, but you will be starting the ball rolling.
Oh, yes.
And if that's what we want, yeah. Campaign. Get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'm Jane Everson from the Campaign Against Drinking and Driving.
What do you think you are, on Jerry Springer? Just tell her what you want.
We want zero tolerance, basically. And we want people to realise what they're doing. What that guy's doing is so wrong.
Absolutely.
You know, I lost a 19-year-old son to an 18-year-old, and the 18-year-old was his friend. And that young lad was 2.5 times over the limit. He hit my son and then drove on, left my son in a ditch, drove on and hit a car at the end of the lane. And you say that you're able to drink and drive? No.
Is that what we want? Zero tolerance?
No, I don't think zero tolerance is a good idea.
Why?
Because, you know, it's down to people's own sensibility to what they actually do, and they know that roughly a couple of drinks is the legal limit. If people want to, roughly, yeah. If you
so
have,
we've already introduced a note of kind of uncertainty to it.
Well, yes. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to define, but at the end of the day, people have to be sensible. I mean, Jimmy obviously is a very extreme example.
Isn't it sensible?
Has shocked me.
Isn't it sensible just to say I won't drink and drive?
I don't.
No, isn't that sensible?
I was actually convicted in 1996 for drinking and driving, and since then I've never driven a car with alcohol in my system. I don't drive and go to the pub. I do one or the other. But, it brought it home to me in many respects. I'm a race engineer and a racing driver, and at the time I lost my race licence, which was potentially for life, which is my passion and my love. It caused me a lot of family grief, a lot of problems at home. I very nearly lost my job. It made my job incredibly difficult from that time on, because I was also an MOT tester as well, so that restricted my function.
And yet you
but
say...
zero tolerance, I think, is very difficult.
Why?
I think there ought to be more tests brought in, along with the breathalyzer, to discern how drunk someone is. I mean, some people can have one glass of sherry at an office party.
Why are you shaking your head off?
When you when you started driving, and you was reading the manual of when you're going to take your tests, there wasn't anything about drinking and driving, and I mean, you lost everything. It took a drink, and then you lost everything you had. I mean,
to be quite honest, it didn't take it wasn't the drink. The element is, as someone mentioned earlier on, that you don't realise.
You do realise.
I have quite a high tolerance level to alcohol, and you know, a lot of people say to me down the pub, you know, when I walk home, you're going to be all right, you know. And I say, yeah, I'm going to be fine, because they perceive what I've had in a quantity as affecting them. I've had people say to me, crikey, I can't drink that much. If I have 1 pint, I feel wobbly. Yet they're under the legal limit, whereas I actually got, I had 3 pints when I got pulled up, driving 400 yards to where I live on my way home from work.
You shouldn't have had any.
I felt absolutely fine.
You shouldn't have had any. You knew you was going to drive that car. You shouldn't have had any.
I felt absolutely fine.
You shouldn't have had any. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have any.
Should we have zero tolerance?
I think zero tolerance is, in theory, the most logical way to go, but I think in practice it might be a little bit more difficult.
Why?
A couple of portions of Christmas pudding put you over the limit for zero tolerance.
You've done some experiments, haven't you?
We have.
Let's see, tell us what you did, and we'll show the clip.
Okay, well what we did is we had a number of volunteer drivers in.
This is one of them.
He's sitting next to me here.
And we're seeing him now. What's he doing?
He's taking approximately, we're dosing him up to the legal limit, basically, with red wine. He's already done a test in the simulator to look at his driving performance when he's unimpaired. And now we're breathalyzing him, and we've got him up to the legal limit there. Now he's in our driving simulator, which allows us to measure the driver as they're driving along. He's in an urban area. You can see he's weaving from left to right. He's going quite fast. He's having difficulty controlling the car. And he's displaying all the typical properties of a drunk driver. He's got overconfidence in his skills, he can't adapt his speed, he's not attending to things that are in the environment. You can hear him there skidding round a bend.
How much is he over the legal limit?
He's just on the legal limit there.
He's just on the legal limit.
Yeah.
Just on the legal limit. And what was it? You went through a whole litany of things he can't do. He's just over, and he couldn't what?
He was having trouble keeping in his lane.
Keeping in his lane, yeah.
Lane exceedances, he'll dodge out of lane more.
He couldn't tell his speed.
He had difficulty in judging his own speed, in adapting his own speed.
I agree with this. I agree with everything you're saying. But what I'm saying is, you know, a person like myself who's a professionally trained driver and used to driving at high speed.
You want to know better if you're a professionally trained driver.
I have more acute senses to the feel of the vehicle. So therefore, even if my...
Do you want to give him a test?
My physical...
Should we do him?
I think you should
Should we do him?
Yeah.
Should we do you? Will you do? Oh, no. Yeah, but you've not... OK, look, we just put... Oh, come on, we just put our Member of Parliament on the spot and she accepted what people were saying to her and she's going to take it away and think about it. Now, you've made a challenge. You set down the challenge. I'm asking you. Go up to where is it?
Up to Leeds.
Up to Leeds. I'll pay. Second class, of course. Seriously, why don't you go... Just on the legal limit?
I'll have a go, but honestly, I'm useless on simulators because I've got no feel.
Oh, yeah. We'll put you on the legal limit.
I can't play a computer game on a television, racing game. It just doesn't work.
I can tell you, we've had racing drivers, we've had professional drivers, we've had police drivers up to the simulator, and sort of when you bring it down to basics, we're all human beings, we all have reaction times. Just because you're a race driver doesn't mean to say your reaction times are any faster on an urban road than anyone else.
What I'm saying is my attunement to the vehicle is more attentive.
We'll sort you out. So, you're going to go. And we'll make all the allowances for you.
This point, Robert. What I'm actually saying is I don't agree with drinking and driving. I'm not condoning it for 1 minute, but what I'm saying is in my situation, I felt absolutely, totally fine. And I know when I'm feeling drunk.
Oh, really?
I know when
hang on. Listen. Did you feel fine?
Yes.
Did you feel okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You kind of walked into this one, didn't you? You might have waited till he'd spoken. And did you know you were weaving it? And
no.
Tell us about it. Tell us what.
I had no idea that I was going that speed. As I was approaching the corner, I had no idea.
But to
absolutely
me,
no idea.
What's it done to you? It's a simulator. You're not actually feeling the vehicle on the road, and that is a different circumstance. But
has he got a point, Philip? Has he got a point?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't got a point at all. Alcohol gives you this feeling of well-being, and it makes you feel as though you're a better driver than you actually are at that moment. I mean, what he's forgetting is that on a road, not a simulator, there's far more hazards.
There's other traffic for a start.
Right, there's pedestrians. The reaction time is slowed down, and you'll have less time to react to what's going on around you.
You know you're on a simulator, so you're not as attentive.
You are attentive. He's trying to prove he's not drunk.
It's like playing a video game.
Hang on. Let me get our researcher. She wants
zero.
What did you say?
The only safe level is 0 alcohol. I wish you applied it.
Do you apply that now?
Yes, I've now stopped drinking. Permanently.
I hope you're not.
Today.
As of today. Okay. I hope I'm not going to have you back in 5 years and do a Jimmy on me, because I will. I shall follow you up just like we followed Jimmy.
You follow me everywhere you want.
You know, I learned from a long time ago that when you make promises, people keep you to them. That's why when I make promises, I make sure we follow them up.
Well, I've made this promise, and I've got a lot of help.
I'm going to follow that. Just like I'm going to keep on the MP's tracks, I'm going to be on yours and his. Good. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to explain a little bit more about the experiment. What we do is we test people before, so we know what they're like when they're normal.
Right.
And then we test them after. So
is it significantly different?
Yeah, what we find is we measure something called lane position, which is how much you weave in your lane. And that's always much higher under impairment. We actually, you say it's not realistic, but we had some pedestrians in the scene which would walk out at certain points, and we test reaction time. Now, what you typically find is that even with up to the legal limit of 0.8, that reaction times are approximately 1.5 seconds longer with that legal limit of alcohol. Now, that may not sound very much, but at 60 miles an hour, that's about 40 metres. 40 metres before you decide that you have to stop. 40 metres before you have to apply the brake.
40 metres of killing time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You did that. Has it changed the way you look at drinking and driving?
I never used to drink and drive. I've never drunk.
And you
down
clearly
the pub
won't now.
and gone to drive, but I never would again.
So, if you've caught drinking and driving, should you lose your licence forever?
No, I don't believe so. In extreme circumstances, I believe everyone's an individual and their individual circumstances should be taken into consideration. Because most people, their driving licence affects their jobs, it affects their families, and it affects their well-being. If someone is over the legal limit without actually injuring someone, if a judge can deem it possible not to ban someone, I believe the judge will take a different attitude or a different action rather than banning someone.
As far, I've advocated it for years, and ever since we lost Jamie, and I've argued the case that anybody who is convicted of killing a person whether they're under the influence of drink or speeding, if they're killed a person with a motoring offence, they should lose their licence for life and not
Death is a
be
different
put behind the
circumstance.
wheel of a
Like,
car.
in death, yes, I do agree in death. But if you're just found being routinely over the limit from drink driving, a routine stop, you're over the limit, I believe that the court should take a different approach to each individual.
I said, if you are convicted of killing a person while over the limit, you should lose your life.
I agree with you in that circumstance. I agree with you.
Why
any
should
other
you
thing,
lose your licence? You have abused that licence. You possibly could have abused other people on the road. Why should you be allowed to keep your licence? Why should you be allowed to drive on that road afterwards?
I'm saying that everyone is an individual. In a circumstance where you are just found routinely over the drink drive limit, then there's a difference there. If you kill somebody...
He's saying you're abusing your licence. You're abusing your privilege of being able to drive on the road.
I believe everybody in here who drives has abused their driving licence at some stage or other. There's nobody in this room that could say they've never drunk and drive. I don't believe that person. I don't believe you.
I haven't.
I don't believe you.
Well,
she can't drive.
Well, there you go.
No,
I'm joking. She can.
No, look, my son was killed by a drunk driver 9 years ago. He was 25.
I sympathise. I do sympathise.
He was a real person, okay? Killed by somebody that decided to drink and drive. They make that decision. It's not an accident, and I hate it when people say.
I'm not here defending drunk drivers who killed somebody. I'm not referring to somebody who was killed.
If your job is so important to you, and your licence and your family, why do you have to drink?
And drive.
Then it can't be that important, can it? You made that decision.
I do hear what you're saying.
My son didn't have the chance to make a decision. Someone came from behind and killed him. Okay? He didn't stand a chance. The driver didn't even stop. There were no skid marks or anything in the road. And he just threw Andrew off his bike and kept driving.
Well, you were saying what? You should be banned?
No, this gentleman here...
We're talking about... We moved on. You'd be talking about whether you should be banned if you're found drinking and driving.
Yes, you should be banned. Your licence should be completely taken away from you. And you should also spend time. And I don't think it's just to do with death. Even if you maim someone, any form of accident of hitting someone, you should pay the price. You are responsible for your own deeds and actions. You know what you're doing. Not because you're just married.
Speeding. You can do all that speeding.
It doesn't matter. You should not go behind the wheel if you are drinking.
Do you go along with that, Philip? Not for deaths, just for being over the limit. Would you go along with a lifetime's ban?
For just being over the limit?
Just being over the limit.
It's not. I can lose my leg because of careless people like you.
I think
it's something that I've got to live for the rest of my life.
But he's got a police and he's thinking about it.
Hang
on, come on, you two, hang on.
I think people do make mistakes, and I agree with that. However, I mean, from some of the examples we've heard this morning, I mean, they should be banned for life.
So okay. So you're saying there's a line. The line, we've already got the legal limit. It's illegal to drive and drink over that, level and drive. Okay? You've got the legal limit, but you think that might be a bit too severe to ban somebody for life. So where do you put that limit? How far up?
It's a difficult one.
Obviously, you've seen Jimmy and Martin, and you say, well, those two clearly come in the category lifetime ban. Yeah?
I would say 3 times.
3 times.
Give people 3 chances.
3 chances or 3 times?
3 chances.
3 chances to kill. Burglars don't get 3 chances.
No. Firstly, you get a year's ban. On your second one, you should get a 5-year ban. And if you're caught drinking and driving a third time, then your licence should go forever.
What would you do?
That's ridiculous. I mean, I think, yes, people can make a mistake, but it ought to be once, really.
Yes.
Once. So a second time over the limit?
I think that's ridiculous. A second time.
Do you, out of interest, because I'm going to nail you professionally, and I know what you're going to say, but just because we're all here talking about this, do you drink and drive?
No, I don't. No.
Not at all drink and drive?
No, not at all.
Right. So there's not a problem about you deciding where the limit is or anything.
Really, no.
When did you make that? Because we don't forget, some of us remember Barbara Castle. Some of us remember when it was introduced. I remember my poor stepfather who just got his first car to Ford Pop and liked his pint. He hated Barbara Castle because she introduced the breathalyzer. I mean, he hated her. Voted Labour, hated Barbara Castle. So some of us remember it was a different culture where people could drink and drive, and perhaps that's where our friends still come from there, who wouldn't shop his friends. So there is a different thing. And there are lots of people who might have drunk and driven at one stage who wouldn't now, because they've become aware of the issues that we're talking about this morning. I'm one of them. I don't actually drink very much, but I would never drink and drive. Never. In fact, because of a programme like this several years ago. And I said, having seen, I was persuaded by the evidence, saw what I heard here, and I made the public commitment, and I've kept it. When did you arrive at that decision? Was that just something you don't drink?
No, I do drink. I enjoy drink, but I would not drink or drive. And I mean, the job that I'm in at the moment, when I'm going to the scenes of accidents, tragedy, and seeing tragedy firsthand, there is no way on earth I would drink and drive.
Do you, Helen?
It's interesting. I'm of the earlier generation. I've certainly drunk and driven in when I was younger. I'm proud that all my 3 children, who are all in their 30s, will not touch a drop and go and get into a car. And I'm
they seem more sensitive about that generation.
You know, they even if I have had 1 or half a glass of wine with a meal and say I'm all right to drive home, they will raise their eyebrows, say, "You're not really, Mum." And I actually agree with them. I know I'm under the I'm under the legal limit.
You know your judgment's impaired.
But that's right.
Even
and
by
I
a small
know that
amount.
they're right. I know that they're right. I come from the older generation. I think it's remarkable the way, and thankfully too, the way it's got a bit better.
The drink driving campaign may not have had effect upon these, but my kids and their friends are also of that generation of yours are, and they seem to do. They do seem like the kids in kids I call now hate me for this. In my office, they do. Perhaps they're just more intelligent or more sensitive. You've killed somebody as a drink driver. Should they get a life sentence then?
You're talking as if I have killed someone.
Somebody has, hypothetically. They've killed somebody. Should they get a life sentence?
Yeah, but it's murder, isn't it?
Yes,
it's murder. It's no different to it's not premeditated, but it's hardly any different. I wanted to ask a question, though, of how can they take your licence away if you haven't got a licence? Because Jimmy said he hadn't got a licence.
Jimmy was confused. I noticed that too. So did Martin, talk about the 5 years and the 5. And obviously, if they're banned, they shouldn't be driving anyway. You're quite right.
Yeah, because he should have had a prison sentence, not perhaps for drinking and driving, but for driving without a licence.
Would you give... This is your ex-wife over there, isn't it? And it's obviously your son that she was talking about earlier on that you lost as well. That's right. Would you have demanded, do you think it would have been appropriate to the person to have got a life sentence?
It wouldn't make me feel any different if you'd have got a life sentence.
Wouldn't make you feel better, you mean?
No, it wouldn't make me feel better, no.
It wouldn't have made you feel that you got justice?
Not really.
No, okay. No, because that's part of it too.
Not
but having
really.
said that, do
because
you
it doesn't change the situation at all.
It doesn't bring him back.
No.
It doesn't make you feeling better. Fine, and you're not looking for vengeance.
No.
Right.
No.
But would you think it was fair?
Certain circumstances, it may be.
So obviously, you don't think it is automatic.
No.
Why?
What that they automatically get a life sentence.
Life for a life. Well, not quite a life for a life, a life sentence for a life.
Because they don't really set out to kill them.
But they know that they can.
Yes.
They know they can kill. Education is enough. The drink driving laws have been around for long enough. There are enough facts, there are enough statistics accumulated over those years that anybody now, once they start drinking, know that their ability to operate a motor vehicle deteriorates. Therefore, they know from campaigns and what you read in the paper every day that they can maim, they can kill somebody. So to say they didn't set out to do it, it may not be their ambition that night, but they know there's a strong possibility that it can happen.
Life, because they know what they're doing. And they keep saying that when they drink, they don't know the limit, or they're going over the limit or whatever. But everybody's body is different. And when you have a drink, everybody can have a drink and it reacts different in your body. Everybody's not the same. You could have half a glass of wine and you're drunk.
But what
And
you
you
say,
can have-
you kill somebody.
You
They've
go-
killed somebody.
you
Drinking
get
and
life.
driving over, and they should get life.
You get life.
And you go along with that.
Well, I think if you started handing out life sentences for people that kill people in road traffic accidents, you'd have a deterrent.
Yes.
Because at the moment, the courts don't give you a deterrent. Because there's nothing... I mean, a driver like in our case, he got sentenced to 30 months imprisonment and a 5-year ban. And he had the audacity, or the cheek, to appeal against that sentence, and he won his appeal and got it reduced to 21 months.
On that
and a
issue,
3-year ban.
do you have a view on that first? And I'll ask you another question in a second. But on that, Philip, do you have a view on whether if you kill somebody, it should be an automatic life sentence?
It's a difficult one, and it's one for the courts to answer.
You don't want it, okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Very quickly, I've got 10 seconds.
Do you feel that the courts of this country and the
You
government...
can't ask him that either. He can't answer that. He can as a private individual.
Can I ask it if
I'm
the...
not
if
the
the
Secretary, are they?
Oh, you are an MP. Come on, yeah, you can ask it to her,
Can I ask it
definitely.
of you, because we actually approached Jacques Straw at this year and we took a petition to him.
You've got to be very quick.
And we asked if they would increase the sentencing, because the person...
Do you think the sentences are appropriate?
They're looking at the sentencing, but I think the key one is
To reduce it, my feeling was.
I think the key one is taking away somebody's licence. The person that offends when they drive needs
What
to
should
have
we
their
do this
licence
Christmas,
taken
Philip?
away.
We don't want people's Christmas ruined by death on the roads, do we? What should we do?
If
What's the
people are
advice?
going to go out and enjoy themselves and have a drink, leave the car at home.
Can't put it any more succinctly than that, can he? My name might be Kilroy, but I'm not a killjoy. Go and enjoy yourselves. Drink as much as you like and be as merry as you like, but don't drive as well. Take care of yourselves.
Kilroy are looking for guests for 2 programmes. Firstly, do you think ethnic minorities need to be taught to be British, as the Home Secretary suggests, or do you think communities should stay segregated? Call Kilroy now on 08705 100 771. Do you believe we should tolerate forced marriages? Secondly, will you want to lose weight in the new year? Does your partner put pressure on you to be slim? Is being overweight driving you apart?